The camera sweeps slowly across the Oversight Committee hearing room. The kind of room where history doesn't just happen, it's carved into marble. Cold white lights spill from the vaulted ceiling, bouncing off the polished stone walls like a surgeon's lamp over an open wound. Every surface gleams perfect, unyielding, almost intimidating. The air is thick, not with heat, but with the silent weight of expectation. It's the kind of silence you feel in your chest, where your heartbeat starts to sound louder than it should. From every corner, reporters crouch behind tripods, their lenses tracking every shift, every glance. The sharp snap-snap of camera shutters cuts through the low hum of whispered conversations. Pages shuffle in nervous hands. Somewhere in the back, a pen clicks once, twice, then stops like even the smallest sound might tip the balance. The committee members sit stiffly behind their desks, their nameplates catching the light like little brass shields. A few trade looks measured and unreadable. And there at the far end of the long oak table, one chair sits empty, its leather cushions smooth, its armrests untouched. In front of it, a single engraved nameplate waits. That name, if spoken in this room, could rattle the highest walls of justice in the land. The heavy double doors creak open, not loud but enough to make heads turn. Jasmine Crockett steps inside with the kind of presence that doesn't need an announcement. Her charcoal gray suit is razor sharp, the fabric catching the light in subtle waves as she moves. Her hair is pulled back into a neat, no-nonsense knot, every strand in place, a signal that she didn't come here for pleasantries. In her left hand, she carries a slim binder, its edges worn from use, but one detail stands out, a single red tab jutting from the top. That tab is not decoration, it's a warning. She walks with measured steps, each heel tap echoing against the marble floor like a countdown. 1, 2, 3, closer to the center of the room, closer to the empty chair. Eyes follow her, some curious, some calculating. A few lips press into thin lines as if bracing for what's about to come. Crockett doesn't glance left or right. Her gaze is locked on her seat at the committee table. That red tab glints under the lights for just a second, enough to catch the attention of a camera lens zooming in click. As Jasmine settles into her seat, the weight of the moment settles with her. Somewhere in the back, a reporter whispers to another, the words barely audible, but sharp enough to slice the air. Is she just here to ask what the public already knows, or is she about to light the fuse on a political bomb? The question hangs there, invisible but heavy, weaving its way through the room. Eyes dart to the red tab again, like it might answer for her. But Crockett doesn't move, doesn't smile, just rests her hand on the binder, as if guarding the key to something no one's ready to hear. Yet, the camera finds him. Justice Clarence Thomas. His eyes are fixed straight ahead, no flicker, no twitch. Just a stillness that feels almost unnatural. The kind of stillness that makes you wonder what's happening behind it. Is it calm or calculation? The lens lingers tight on his face. His jaw is set, his lips pressed into a line so thin it could disappear. A shadow from the overhead lights cuts across his cheek, sharp enough to frame him like a portrait in a museum. In the gallery, you can feel its shoulders tense, breath shorten. Each click of the camera shutters feels louder now. Somewhere deep in the silence, the rhythm of the room syncs with the rhythm of a heartbeat. One beat, another, waiting for something, anything, to break the stillness. A voice cuts through the quiet like a blade through fabric. It's sharp, deliberate, and coming from the opposite end of the long committee table. A senior senator from the opposing party leans forward, his fingers steepled, his tone dripping with practiced disdain. "Miss Crockett," he begins, pausing just long enough to let the cameras lock onto his face. "We all know why you're here today. This isn't about justice, this is about theater, political theater. And you," he points a slow, deliberate finger across the table, "are playing the lead role." The words hang in the air, and the reaction is immediate. A ripple of murmurs spreads through the gallery, some nodding in agreement, others shaking their heads in disbelief. A few reporters lower their pens for just a second, waiting to see if this is the soundbite they've been hoping for. The senator leans back in his chair, a faint smirk curling at the edge of his lips, as if certain he's just seized control of the moment. The senator's words ripple through the chamber like a stone dropped into still water. From the public gallery, soft murmurs swell, layered voices overlapping too low to make out, but charged with opinion. A woman in the second row nods slowly, lips pursed as if the accusation confirms her worst suspicions. 2 seats over, a man leans forward, brows drawn tight, his eyes locked on Crockett with a mix of doubt and curiosity. On the press bench, one reporter scribbles furiously while another simply raises an eyebrow, the faintest smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. The cameras shift, catching fragments. Narrowed eyes, folded arms, a pair of clasped hands twisting nervously in a lap. Even among the committee members, the divide is visible. A few lean back with satisfied expressions, while others exchange quick, uneasy glances. The hum of whispers grows, then drops, as if the whole room is collectively holding its breath, waiting for Crockett to speak. Crockett doesn't flinch. She doesn't rush to defend herself, doesn't fire back with the kind of rehearsed outrage her opponent might be expecting. Instead, she smiles. It's not wide, not warm, just a small, knowing curve of the lips that lands heavier than any verbal comeback. She leans forward, slightly resting one hand on the red tab binder, the other on the polished wood of the table. Her gaze locks onto the senator's, unblinking, holding it long enough for the tension to thicken between them. And then slowly, deliberately, she speaks. Well, see, 2 words, that's all. But in the charged air of the hearing room, they land like a match on dry tinder. The murmurs start again, quieter this time, tinged with anticipation. Somewhere a camera light blinks red, capturing the moment that might just replay on the evening news. The senator's smirk falters, if only for a heartbeat. The camera drifts slowly toward the red tab binder resting under Crockett's hand. It doesn't open. Not yet. But its presence is louder than any speech in the room. YouTube viewers lean forward in their own seats, eyes fixed on the screen. Somewhere in the comments, fingers are already typing, "What's in that folder?" The shot lingers tight on the binder, just long enough to plant a seed in every mind watching. The senator's earlier words fade into background noise, replaced by a singular question pulsing in the audience's head. What could possibly be inside that would make a Supreme Court justice lose his composure? And that question is why no one is clicking away. Without warning, the big screen at the front of the hearing room flickers to life. The overhead lights dim just enough for the glow to wash over the faces in the crowd. Words begin to appear, projected in bold white font against a black background. The subject line first, "Read dinner tonight." Then the body of the email, short, chilling. "Clarence will vote in our favor, dinner tonight." A collective inhale sweeps the room. Some lean forward, trying to read faster. Others glance sideways, searching for reassurance that they'd read it wrong. They hadn't. The timestamp on the email, just days before a landmark decision, hangs like a flashing red warning light. The name at the bottom is blurred. For now, the camera cuts sharply to the witness table. Ginni Thomas sits just a half step behind her husband, her face carefully composed, too carefully. Beneath the table, her hand slides over, resting lightly on Clarence's. It's not an affectionate squeeze. It's measured, controlled, almost coded. Her thumb presses once against his knuckles, then stills. Clarence doesn't look at her. He doesn't look at the screen. He just stares straight ahead, the same unblinking stillness as before. But now there's a shadow behind it, something harder to read. His lips part slightly, then close again without a word. The silence is louder than the email on the screen. Crockett leans forward, the faint scratch of her chair legs echoing in the hushed room. Her fingers tap the red tab binder once, just enough to draw every eye back to it. She glances briefly at the projected email, then lifts her gaze, pinning it on the witnesses. Her voice is calm, even polite, but every syllable carries an edge sharp enough to cut. Context lets add context. The words drop like stones in water. A few heads turn toward the committee clerk, others toward the screen, unsure of what's coming next. Crockett doesn't look away from Clarence and Ginni. Her tone isn't accusatory yet, but it's the kind of invitation everyone knows is just a prelude to something far more dangerous. The room exhales, but it's not relief. It's the kind of sharp, shallow breath people take when they've just watched the first punch land. A woman in the back clutches her bag tighter. A man in the front row leans back, eyes narrowed as if replaying Crockett's words in his head. On the press bench, a journalist adjusts his recorder, his hands moving faster than usual. Every movement in the room feels just a little too quick, a little too tense. The email still glows on the screen, unchanging. That single line, "Clarence will vote in our favor, dinner tonight," hangs over the chamber like smoke after a match strike. Crockett doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. The silence is part of the hit. The audience, both in the room and on the live stream, knows it. The first shot has been fired. The back doors open again, but this time there's no creak, just the swift, purposeful swing of hinges that draws every head around. A tall man in his late 40s steps inside, wearing a plain navy suit that doesn't try to impress. His eyes are steady, his jaw tight, and in his hand a folded piece of paper. Whispers start immediately. No one was expecting this. The committee chair clears his throat. "State your name for the record." "Daniel Mercer," the man says, voice clear, measured. "Former legislative aide to Justice Thomas." A ripple of shock moves through the room. Cameras shift, zooming in. Crockett doesn't move, but her gaze sharpens. Mercer unfolds the paper slowly, as if each crease carries weight. "I'm here under oath," he continues to testify about memos that were never supposed to leave chambers but did. "And I can tell you," he glances briefly at Clarence, "exactly whose hands they passed through." The screen above the committee table blinks again. The email disappears, replaced now by a stark, minimalist timeline in bold red and white. 3 entries, 3 dates, 3 points that tell more than 100 pages of testimony. June 3rd, private dinner at the Jefferson Club. June 4, flight 782, Washington, D.C. to Dallas. June 7, Supreme Court ruling, 5-4 in favor. The simplicity of it makes it impossible to look away. No commentary, no added spin. Just the cold sequence dinner travel decision. The weight of implication does the rest. The camera finds Clarence again. His face is unreadable, but the muscle in his jaw ticks once. Ginni glances down, her hand still resting in her lap. And somewhere in the crowd, someone whispers, "That's too close to be coincidence." Mercer takes a slow breath, his eyes shifting from the screen to the committee. "These aren't isolated events," he says, voice low but caring. "Dinner travel ruling. And it's not the first time this sequence has happened." The screen changes again. Another set of dates slides in beneath the first, then another. Each one following the same rhythm: private meeting, unexplained trip, favorable decision. The pattern forms like a drumbeat, steady and undeniable. In the gallery, the murmurs grow louder. Reporters glance at each other, some already typing headlines in their minds. Crockett leans back slightly, letting the images speak for themselves. Mercer continues, "When you see it once, you can call it coincidence. Twice, maybe still, but 3 times 4. At that point, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pattern." The murmurs shift in tone. It's no longer surprise, it's the quiet, heavy sound of people connecting dots in their own minds. In the back row, a man folds his arms, eyes narrowing, as if he's seeing not just the events on the screen, but the machinery behind them. A woman leans to her friend, whispering, "If this is real, it's a system." The friend doesn't answer, just nods slowly. The camera finds faces in the gallery, furrowed brows, pursed lips, uneasy glances. This isn't the energy of a crowd reacting to a single scandal. It's the tension of realizing they might be looking at a structure, a deliberate repeating process. Mercer says nothing more for the moment. He lets the silence stretch, knowing the audience both in the room and on the live stream will fill it themselves. Ginni straightens in her seat, folding her hands neatly on the table. Her voice, when it comes, is softer than anyone expected. Measured, steady, almost tender. "My husband and I," she begins, glancing toward Clarence, "for the briefest second, have built our life together on 2 things, our marriage and our faith." She lets the words linger, her gaze sweeping slowly across the committee members and the audience. "We pray together before every decision. We lean on each other through storms. And I will not sit here and let decades of integrity be shredded by innuendo and political theater." Her tone tightens, the softness hardening into something more pointed. "We have weathered far worse than whispers. It's a move straight from the political playbook, shift the frame from the evidence to values, from specifics to the sanctity of family and belief." The crowd reacts in split seconds, some nod, visibly moved, others stiffen, unconvinced. But no one misses the tactic. Crockett doesn't raise her voice, but the edge is there, clear as steel. She leans forward, hands flat on the table, the red tab binder between them, like a drawn line in the sand. "Mrs. Thomas," she says evenly, "I'm not here to judge your marriage. I'm asking about the public's trust." The air in the room shifts. The warmth of Guinness' appeal to family values evaporates, replaced by the cold institutional weight of the question. Crockett's gaze doesn't waver, it pins Ginni in place. Because when that trust erodes, she continues, our entire system of justice begins to crack. And the people watching right now are wondering if it's already happening. All eyes shift to Clarence. For a long moment, he doesn't move, doesn't even blink. Then slowly he leans toward the microphone, the faint buzz of the system filling the pause. His voice is low controlled, almost too calm. On advice of counsel, he says each word deliberate. I will not be answering further questions. The words hang in the air like frost. Crockett tilts her head slightly, studying him, but says nothing. The silence that follows isn't empty, it's loaded heavy with everything unsaid. In the gallery, a few people exchange looks, the kind that say more than whispers ever could. On the live stream, the comment section explodes. In political hearings, words are weapons. But sometimes, silence cuts deeper. Clarence's refusal doesn't fade into the noise, it grows louder in the minds of everyone watching. Every second he stays still is another second for the audience to fill with their own conclusions. Reporters stop taking notes for a beat, their eyes fixed on him. Cameras capture the moment from every angle, the still hands, the unmoving gaze, the stone-set jaw. Later, those images will be replayed again and again on news loops, not for what he said, but for what he didn't. Because here in this room, silence has weight. And today it might just be heavier than the truth itself. At first it's faint, just a low rumble beneath the sterile hum of the hearing room. Then it grows. The faint echo sharpens into words into chants. Through the thick glass and heavy walls, the rhythm cuts through. Justice for all, justice for all. The sound doesn't stop. It swells, pulsing like a drumbeat that refuses to fade. Even here in the insulated chamber of power, the outside world is pounding at the doors. Some in the gallery glance towards the exits drawn by the noise. Others shift uncomfortably, reminded that whatever happens inside these walls is already spilling into the streets. Crockett pauses mid-page in her binder, letting the chants seep in. She knows everyone hears it. She knows Clarence hears it too. A camera operator by the window tilts his lens downward, catching the crowd outside. Through the glass, over a sea of moving heads, one sign rises above the rest, bright yellow background. Thick black letters that almost shout on their own. Who runs the court? The sign sways with the rhythm of the chants, each movement making the question feel heavier, more pointed. On the live stream, the feed cuts briefly to that image, and social media is already screen capturing it, posting, retweeting, turning it into a viral rallying cry. Inside the chamber, a few members glance toward the window. Clarence doesn't, or maybe he won't. Crockett's eyes flick toward the window just for a second, but it's enough. The sign outside the chants, the sea of people, it clicks. This isn't just about Clarence Thomas or Ginni or even this committee room. The energy outside is different. It's bigger. It's the kind of energy that can spill into every headline, every dinner table conversation, every protest for weeks. She turns back to the mic, her posture subtly changing, not leaning forward to challenge, but sitting taller, speaking to a wider audience now. In her mind, the equation has shifted. This is no longer personal prosecution. This is the opening act of a movement. During a short recess, Crockett steps into a narrow side hallway. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, the kind of sound that makes moments feel longer than they are. Her phone vibrates, no caller ID. She answers anyway. The voice on the other end is low, deliberate, and unmistakably political. Congresswoman, this is friendly advice. Cool it down. Step back. Let this one fade before it burns everyone. Crockett doesn't speak right away. Her eyes drift toward the muted glass of the hallway door, where she can still faintly hear the chants outside. When she does answer, her voice is calm but final. No, the people outside aren't here for me to cool it. They're here because it's already too hot. She hangs up before the voice can reply. The gavel strikes once, sharp, final. The committee room falls into an uneasy silence. The chair's voice carries across the chamber. We will now vote on the motion to refer this matter for further investigation. One by one, the members speak. Aye, no, aye. The roll call moves like slow thunder, each response pushing the outcome toward inevitability. When the last vote is cast, the tally appears on the digital board behind the dais. Motion passes, no applause, no shouts, just the sound of papers shuffling, chairs scraping, in a collective awareness that something irreversible has happened. This isn't an end. It's the first crack in a wall that stood for decades. Outside, the chants grow louder, as if the crowd already knows the real storm hasn't even started yet. 2 days later, the terminal hums with the low roar of rolling suitcases and boarding announcements. Crockett walks briskly toward her gate, her red tab binder tucked under one arm, headphones in, but with no music playing, just the quiet she's been craving. Out of the flow of travelers, a man in his late 60s steps forward. His jacket is worn, his hands calloused. He hesitates for only a moment before extending his hand. Congresswoman Crockett. She stops, takes out her earbuds and nods. His grip is firm, his eyes direct. "Thank you," he says simply, "for asking what we've been wanting to ask for years." There's no speech, no photo requests, just a squeeze of the hand before he disappears back into the crowd. Crockett stands there for a beat, the noise of the terminal swelling around her. Outside, the glass planes lift into the sky. Inside her, the fight feels far from over. The scene fades from the bustling airport to a still frame. Crockett's face lit by the pale afternoon sun streaming through the glass. Her voice, steady and unshaken, carries over the image. Justice is not a building, it's an action, and it's one we have to take every single day. The frame lingers for a heartbeat, then cuts to black. The chants from outside the Capitol echo faintly in the background, as if to remind the viewer the story doesn't end here. The screen stays black for a beat longer than expected. Then Crockett's voice returns quiet, almost a whisper, but clear enough to cut through. The first crack is here. But will it be wide enough for the light to get in? A faint flare of light bleeds into the dark frame, just enough for the audience to feel it. Then it fades again, leaving nothing but the lingering question. This story isn't just about politics, it's about courage. It's about asking the hard questions when it's easier to stay silent. Because silence protects comfort, but it never protects truth. Whether in the halls of power or in the small moments of our own lives, justice depends on ordinary people choosing to speak, to act, and to keep pushing when the system tells them to stop. The crack in the wall may start small, but every voice, every action, every choice to stand up makes it wider. And one day the light gets in. If this story moved you, if you believe in asking the questions that matter, then don't just watch, be part of the movement. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and join us for more stories the mainstream won't tell you. Justice needs voices. Let yours be one of them.